Hey everybody, it's Julie. I'm going to make a sort of disorganized and maybe possibly rambly video for you today because I don't really have anything planned for what I want to say about this, but the topic that I want to address is why would someone choose commercial publishing and contrast that a little bit with the other choices available to you. So like I said, I haven't really sat down and planned out how I want this video to be, but I just want to talk about it a little bit because one thing that I've noticed in talking to people who are struggling with making decisions about their work is that they frequently come up against this idea of like, oh, you have to learn how to pitch yourself to agents, you have to learn how to be patient with publishers getting back to you, and they say this is not the part of this whole journey that I really was looking forward to, or actually they didn't want to do it at all. And it may sound kind of obvious that nobody really likes rejection, nobody really likes waiting, but there are some people who really did not want to go that route. They kind of feel like maybe it's selling out or it's not at all in the spirit of what they even want to do with their work. And I just want to say that that's actually okay. You don't need to have anybody impress upon you that the only thing that you can do with your writing after you've written it is to try to sell it to somebody else. So my advice to people who are kind of struggling with what they should do with, whether to go into something professional with their writing and whether it's really worth dealing with all of the waiting and potential rejection and compromising, is think about, what do you really want out of your writing? Do you want to write it for yourself? Do you want to write it to share with your friends and family? Do you want to write it for commercial success? Do you want to write it and publish it because you want some kind of validation that you're actually good at this? Do you want widespread distribution and access made available for your writing? Do you want someone else to be handling the business-related decisions regarding your writing so that you can just be the creative half of it? These are all different perspectives people have, and sometimes they'll have several of these in the same outlook about their writing. But the bottom line is you do not have to approach the traditional path to publication if that just really scares you away, or maybe you're not ready yet, or you want to try something a little more small scale. Maybe you've heard some kind of horror stories about getting terrible reviews, or responding to criticism and finding yourself getting nailed to the wall, or maybe you got an agent who asked you to revise your story under their terms, and then you returned the document to them and they still didn't sign you and you felt betrayed. Or the same thing happened to you at submission, where a publisher asked you to do that and then they still didn't take your work, and you feel like you've done all of this compromising for no reason. So yes, those things happen. They are part of the industry. It can be kind of scary, but I think the perspective I would have on that is that when you approach publishing with a publishing professional at your side, like an agent, trying to sell you to a mainstream market like a mainstream publisher, even if they're one of the smaller ones, what you're deciding with that move is that you want to be a marketable product as well as a piece of art. So what you're doing is you're pairing with essentially business professionals to make a product out of your creativity. And you have to be okay with that if this is the choice that you make for your writing. So if you have decided that you want to sacrifice potential availability and widespread options for your book because you want to make sure that you retain the artistic integrity completely on your own terms without any outside input, then that's okay. You can decide, hey, I'd rather self-publish this, or hey, I'd rather not publish this at all, or hey, I'd like to just maybe post it in installments on a fiction sharing site or something like that. Those are all valid reasons to write something. You don't have to feel like because you've decided you yourself or your project is not really appropriate for maybe mainstream marketing, or you're finding through your attempts to sell it that that's the case, it's okay, and it's not necessarily a lesser thing. I do believe that as a person who prefers to pursue traditional kinds of publication for her own work, I feel like the outside input really has made me a stronger writer, and I feel like having professional editors, and especially the professional marketers and the editors who have gotten behind my work to sign it up for promotions and send out galley copies to reviewers and whatnot, has really certainly helped sales and certainly helped buzz. But whether you feel like that has compromised the artistic integrity of your work is kind of up to you. I didn't feel like that really happened for me, but my story is not necessarily typical, and the people that I worked with were not necessarily typical, and there's no guarantee that you will have a typical journey if you choose to involve other publishing professionals into the eventual publication of your work. So basically, I guess I'm wrapping this up. You have options other than what everybody tells you is the mainstream way to go. You probably will, if you choose one of these less traditional or less mainstream options for your work, you probably will be read less, unless something really surprising happens, where a self-published book just gets picked up by the mainstream, or your fiction on a site becomes really popular. Those things do happen too, and I understand also that popularity and wide readability is not necessarily people's goal in writing these things either. But I think I would just stress that writers who write and complete a project should think about what do they want as far as an audience, and what kind of response do they want from their audience. You know, and if you were to publish something on a website or self-publish it, you kind of have a few more individualized options to interact with your readers, or have sort of more small scale and more control over every aspect, and that can be good or bad, because not to be rude to anybody, but the vast majority of people who think they can write are wrong, and they're writing things that really need a lot more work and a lot more polish to be kind of up to the standards of most readers. So, I mean, that doesn't mean you shouldn't write it, but outside input really does help a lot of writers get a better product out there, that they may not even know that they need those things yet, and they're kind of so focused on, I have to be able to have the plot and the characters and the cover art and everything exactly handled by myself and on my own terms. So if that's what's really important to you, then you should go for that. There really is nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with not being on the same level with some of the mainstream published authors that you may know online. You really have to understand it as an individualized process, and think about what you really value with your stories, and if it would make you happy if only a few people read your story, or if only a few people in your family bought it, then you should pursue the kinds of things, the kinds of options that seem to be available to you on a small scale, especially if rejection and waiting is kind of destroying your life. So, as a person who has been through plenty of rejection and plenty of waiting for decisions that were not necessarily the ones I wanted to hear, I do feel that, I understand that. I happen to be one of the people who dealt with it for a long time and eventually came out on the other side, but there is no guarantee that that will happen for you. And this is kind of maybe an unpopular thing to say also, but there is an element of luck in the publishing industry. There is an element of being in the right place at the right time, submitting to the right person. And it does also require skill and determination and everything. Those are good skills to have, and you probably won't get too far without them. And it definitely isn't just luck, but there is some luck sometimes, and you can have bad luck, or you can see some other writer who has been in a very similar situation, who just got the right editor to read their book at the right time, and suddenly they've exploded onto the scene. So you can't necessarily get where they get by doing what they did, and that's kind of one of the more maddening things about this industry. So, anyway, those are my thoughts on making choices about your work and mainstream versus other options, not even necessarily self-publishing, but other options for your work. And if you have any thoughts that you want to share or any questions for me on this, just let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.